Lucia is up next. She is on deck right now. Let's see if you can. There we go. We've got camera, we've got video, and I think audio is coming through too. I think I hear a little something. And with
Hello,
that,
how are you?
I will let you go through and pull up your deck and go right into it. I'm really excited about this one. This is mostly about kind of you take business, marketing, and some neuroscience and mix it all together. How do you get to data storytelling with that? So really exciting, and I can't wait. So I'll let you go ahead and start.
Okay, well, thank you very much for this opportunity to share what I have been studying. I have more than 15 years of experience preparing dashboards and graphs and reports and everything. I started my career studying marketing and business because back then it didn't exist anything compared with data visualization or data scientist or anything like that. But I always wanted to understand why we do what we do, why we choose a certain product or anything. So I started working in market research, and with the years I realized that the neuroscience was available to read and understand. I took some courses, and I really love to see how our primitive brain actually makes a lot of decisions for us. So it is amazing, and I hope you like it. Let's go and see what it is, what neuroscience and storytelling is first. So, sorry, there it is. Well, we as a species have a long way of evolution. And at first, we gather at the fire and told stories. And through that, we could learn what to do better, how to survive, what fruits we could eat. So we first are able to understand the things with a story. And if we go back before words, before writing, before anything, we only had images. So we understand better images than text, and very last way, numbers. We're not programmed to understand numbers intuitively. So the idea is to go a step back and prepare the visualizations in a way that are really easy to understand, and prepare a story so we can read the chart in a way that is easier for our brain to understand. So what are the storytelling principles? First of all, you have to focus on context. Who are you preparing your graphs for? How old are they? Do they have an idea of what you're talking about? Do you need to explain more about it, or it's the same report every week and they already know where to look at? Do they have problems with colors, color blindness, or anything that you need to pay attention to? All of that is really important to present the visualization in a way that they can understand it. Then let's go to functionality. We have to choose the proper graph. Not every graph is useful for everyone or every data. For instance, a pie chart. I'm not very fond of pie charts, but when you have like two possibilities, yes or no, they are useful. Instead, if you have 3, 4, 5 options, it starts getting messy, and we are not able to determine each size of the pie. So in that case, that wouldn't be a chart to use. Then eliminate clutter. Anything that doesn't add value is making noise and should be eliminated immediately. We cannot let people start looking at the graph and see what's important, what's not, where to focus. We should do that work for them. So anything that can be eliminated, just take it away. And focus attention. Use color, form, distribution, space, blank space, whatever you need to ensure what are we looking at. Well, so let's understand why our brain needs these hacks. According to neuroscience, we pay more attention at the beginning and at the end of anything, a presentation, a talk, or anything. So any message that you need your audience to remember, be sure to say it at the beginning and repeat it at the end, so they will remember that. As I was saying, we first understand images, not only evolutionary. Imagine a kid, the first thing he interacts with is what the kid sees, and then a couple of years later becomes able to talk and express his feelings, and some years later even he starts learning numbers. So images are easier and faster to understand to everyone. And we are focused to program on movement and on human faces. So that's why we imagine faces everywhere in the clouds or anything. So if we want to have the attention, we should always offer a human face, talking with the camera or being able to interact directly, eye contact, anything that really catches the attention of the other person. Well, our brain likes puzzles, likes being defined like, okay, I'm gonna solve this. But if it is too complicated, there's a line where it starts not being fun. And there are some graphs that are amazing. They look like a piece of art, but you have so many different options, and the sizes mean something, the colors mean another, where located is for each country. So you have to read a bunch of instructions just to start understanding the graph. So personally, I prefer always bar charts that are, they look dummy or anything, but anyone can understand them. And you don't need to read any explanation to know that a bar chart longer than the other has more data or is more expensive or whatever it is, but it's more than the other. So if we want our brain to understand things, let's just provide it in a way that it is interesting but easy at the same time. Well, our brain cannot ignore novelty. You're passing by the street, the same street you go every day, and one day they paint a house red. Whoa, what happened? You won't be able not to look at it. I know more people, there are people who pay more attention to that than others, but we are programmed to see differences, to spot a lion in the savannah, to spot something that may be a danger or not. So even if we are not aware of it, we do pay attention to something that's different from what it should be. Sorry, but the human brain is selfish. So if we want someone to pay attention to something, we must provide a benefit. What do they take from it? Why should they listen to the product presentation? Well, because our sales will improve if we we take the correct actions. So I don't know, but use that element that is bringing something to the other person into the presentation, so the other person is interested in listening. We are really moving to contrast. That's why there are lots of then and now, total makeover of the houses, the people, everything. And we love to see contrast, finding the sudden differences. And we really enjoy it. And we should use this to show contrast and help people decide on that. Well, as I was saying, we are paying attention to things that are interesting. So let's keep it clear, clean, and interesting. Also, our brain is lazy in a way that there's a lot going on. Our brain has to keep us alive, pay attention to emails, our cell phone, our job, anything that's going on. And also our body, it's all the functions we do. So for doing this, the brain consumes a lot of energy. Therefore, the things that the brain can prevent from doing and reserve that energy for something else, it will. So we have to highlight and make it easier. So the brain says, okay, this amount of energy I can spend on this. This is okay. And it doesn't lock down and ignore it, just like advertising and so many things that just go by and we don't realize it happened because our brain just eliminated for us. Clear message from clutter. I couldn't emphasize it enough. Anything that doesn't add value has to be eliminated, clean it, use a lot of blank space. It's not because you have the space you have to put something. White space or blank space, how people are using it right now, is useful to focus on what's important. So we can see some real life examples. So, because all of this theory is really interesting, but how do I apply it to dashboards? Well, I brought up this comic because I find it really normal nowadays in a lot of companies. They want, well, I want a dashboard for this and also a dashboard for that. How about this? And open it by every country and then open it by product. And you end up with so many reports, so many graphs. And honestly, I don't think anyone ever reads them. And if they try to, it will be really difficult. So the idea is not to go into this situation, just focus on what's important. So I said the message was important and we need to highlight the insight. And in this case, we can use color to highlight the column that's bigger and also the name in the title, we can link it. So we have Black Palin in blue, the column in blue, and probably everyone who reads this is going to see exactly that Black Palin has the higher percentage. It's really straightforward, easy to follow, and there's no possibility to understand something else. Well, colors. Let's just use the colors in our favor. I know it changes from culture to culture, but in general, red, we are programmed to understand that it is danger, something bad, something we have to pay attention. So in this case, as we are looking at a graph that shows that in June we have a higher percentage of rejected projects than in May, it is important to pay attention to that. So let's use red to highlight it. The labels. The idea is that we read from top to bottom, from left to right. So we should put all the information before we arrive to the graph. The title should be clear, have a message about what you are showing, not just a descriptive title of percentage from the survey. Now, you should say, in this case, for instance, everything is just about right, except creaminess, that's not enough, and amount of fruit, that's too much. That should be a great title because when you go to the graph, you can see that the title is right, that's what's going on. And also the use of color that I shaded, except for the ones that I really want the people to focus on. So we use color, we focus the attention, and we put the labels on top. So when we get to the bars, we already know what each color is. If not, we imagine that the labels are not there. You go to the graph and see yellow, gray, and orange. What's everyone? We have no idea. Then we have probably it's on the bottom, really in a tiny typography, difficult to read, but well, we read it and we go back to the graph and we spend a lot of time that's unnecessary. Just put it before you read it and it's natural. Well, something I see often and it's really easy to amend is using the labels on the vertical bar chart. But if the labels don't have enough space, they start being to the side or vertical or anything. And I can assure you, there are studies that say that, I don't remember exact number, but it is more difficult to read a text that's not horizontal. We have learned to read horizontally, so anything else, it takes more time for us to understand it. If not, think about the puzzles that the psychology has, where they rotate a letter, and you need to see which one is the same letter and which one is mirrored. So it is an extra effort, and we want to avoid efforts. If the text is too long, just make the vertical graph a horizontal graph, and then you have all the space you want for the labels. I was talking about blank space. For me, it's actually difficult to ensure that I always leave space. Because we are using the whole screen, we see a lot of space, and we can put something else. Oh, here I can put a little bar chart as well. And then you end up with a mess that nobody can understand. So what I suggest is to make a small version of it. And once you see it smaller, it's easier to see if the data can breathe or not. If you see that everything is too stuck and you cannot differentiate if bar belongs to one graph or the next or the neighbor graph, well, then you need to make some space. And well, about the clutter, I know this is absurd. It has too many things that there shouldn't be there, like extra colors and the labels, the legend, the title for the access, and the grid lines when we have the numbers. So let's just eliminate everything. And it's the same information, and now we know what to look. We have the higher bar in another color, and we directly watch it, and it's done. We go back to here, and we don't know where to start reading. Which one is more important? I don't know. I'm driven to the pink because it's more shiny than the others. And then I start reading, and this is much easier. So every time we are able to do it, just remove it. Excel, Tableau, most of the visualization tools are not making this easier for us. They come by default with a lot of things that are not needed. So we have to work on it and improve it every time, or just copy a graph that we have already done and adapt it. But yeah, sorry, it's not made easy. And I can't emphasize enough how bad 3D graphs are for our brain. We don't understand them. I mean, of course, in a pie chart, you will say that the light blue is the bigger segment, okay? But then we have the dark blue, the turquoise, the other green. And if I ask you what's the exact percentage of each of those slices, you have no idea. There's no way. We cannot distinguish between 35% and 40%. Those numbers are not really easy in a pie chart. And if the pie chart is rotated and in 3D, it is impossible. Also, the bar chart is the easiest graph to understand, but when it is 3D and rotated, now you cannot even follow the lines correctly. And for instance, white, would you tell it is 5? It is, what's the number? It's difficult to follow. So try to avoid them. Well, as I was saying, images are easier, so we can put the name on the axis. But if we can add an image on the other side, we don't need to go back and read what was it, because it's easier for us to understand the image than read a word. So please remember, always repeat the message when you start and when you end, so people will remember it. Eliminate clutter, keep it simple. The brain gets frustrated and will ignore anything that demands too much effort. You want their attention, you want them to read your graph and understand it, so make it easier for them. Highlight what you want them to remember. Remember, the brain is lazy. If you give it already a path to read, it will be easier. And show what is beneficial for them. And also attract attention. You can research for pre-attentive attributes, which is contract, movement, using a different size or shape or anything will draw attention to it. So if you want to continue researching these topics, I recommend Storytelling with Data from Cole. She also has a community online where you can participate and prepare dashboards and get feedback, which is great. The Agile Mind from Stanislaw Barja was my teacher from neuromarketing, and I find that book really easy to understand. We get to know our motivations, and it's great and for everyone. And The Buying Brain from Pradeep, it's more focused on neuromarketing and how to sell products, but in a way you are selling your graph to someone who wants to read it or understand the information. So you can also apply all of that to a visualization. And I'm also studying some ideas of design because I didn't have that study when I was at school. So it's really interesting. Well, you can follow me, contact me, whatever you want. I am more likely on LinkedIn, but I'm also on Twitter. So anything related to data visualization is the best for me. I really love the moment that when I have a database and I get to prepare visualization. So anything, you can contact me. And I don't know if anyone has questions.
Let's see, taking a look. Lucia, thank you so much for that. That was great. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I saw a lot of people agreeing. A lot of folks love the conversation about the lazy brain, and I guess the selfish brain too is also a big one. That and your sources were also a really popular one there in the chat, as you can see. But yeah, I think everyone really loved the presentation because it does kind of come down to more the neuroscience of what's happening. And it's funny because a lot of what you were saying there, you know, a very lazy brain, a very selfish brain. I kept thinking of presenting to executives and how do I take, you know, this very complex visualization and kind of sum it up into 3 bullet points, just to make it very simple to get those points across. I think it's always a struggle. So it really helps.
You can prepare. You have been working with some data for a whole week. You have prepared 20 pages and everything is really important, but they ask only for 1 page. So whatever you have prepared, select what's more important and put it there. If they are interested in 1 page, they will ask for more. Very true.
Very true. It's actually, it's probably one of the most true things I found with going through and doing a lot of the presentation is how to pick that story, you know, and how to go through and find that perfect story within your data. And like you say, you might have worked the entire week to get this together. And how do you pull that out? I'm always surprised.
Yes, that's the hardest part, to see through that data, not just each chart.
So Vince is mentioning, he said your slide design was right on point. It actually helps illustrate everything that you were talking about. Is right there. A good question from Emily is, how do you handle the repeat at the beginning, at the end of it, and at the end of a viz too?
Well, if you are presenting to an audience, you just say it, the main concept at the beginning and at the end. And if you have a graph, an interactive dashboard or anything that they will use it on their own, you could use it as a title, the main title explaining the idea. And at the end, some suggestions or anything that take back on that title. And because this happened, I recommend this and that.
I've always been impressed too with the folks that they'll start off their visualization with a question too, and that kind of it starts off the story, and it involves
the audience.
Exactly, and it kind of gets them there, and it makes them really kind of go through and use the data on their own too to kind of help drive that. Very, very interesting.